Okay, so let's talk about construct operations. I have few setups here to save some time. And please don't bother if you don't catch everything in this video. I will talk about all those tools later in exercise section in more depth. For now, I just want to demonstrate their basic function so you can understand what all those are doing and how you can use them in proper way before we go to those exercises. So let's start with the first command here, which is called boolean. We have 4 different options: difference, union, isect, and merge. With difference, you can subtract your meshes. You need to select your base objects first and then hit done, and now you can select objects to subtract. Let's use all those spheres, and if I hit done or right click to confirm, Moy will subtract all those spheres from all those boxes. You can use multiple meshes with all those boolean commands. With union, you can unite your meshes together. You need to select objects you want to union. Let's use those 3, hit done, and you have one unified mesh. With isect, Moy will create a mesh in intersection area between 2 sets of objects. You need to select first object set. Let's use only this box, hit done, and now you need to select second object set. Let's use those 2 spheres, hit done, and you have only intersection meshes between those 2 sets. Fourth command is merge, also super simple. You need to select all objects you want to merge. Let's use those 3 meshes, hit done, and Moy will split them into all those pieces in one command. So we have something like difference, isect at the same time, and also Moy will keep those 2 parts. So that's how you use all those boolean operations. Also, you can use merge for cutting with 2D elements. You can select this curve and this box, go to top view, and then if you hit merge, Moy will split this into 2 solid pieces. So it's really important in which viewport you use this merge command. If you select those 2 and go to front view and hit merge, Moy will split this box from this front orientation. That's the same like for trim tool. But keep in mind that trim is different from merge. If you try to use trim in the same way, let's copy a box and this curve. Let's select those 2 and hit trim. So now I will hit done for mutual trim and done to keep all pieces. This will also split this box into 2 pieces, but in this case you have open surfaces, and with merge you have solid meshes. So those are 2 different tools. Okay, so that's all about boolean commands. Let's move to next tool here, which is called fillet. You have 2 options under fillet and chamfer. With first one you can produce a round edge effect like this, and with second one you can do a cutout effect like this one. And you can use those effects on selected edges only, or you can select whole mesh and do that on all edges at the same time. Let's start with fillet command. First you need to pick this fillet radius. You can type it here. Let's go with 1 millimeter, or you can pick it on the grid by clicking like this. So you need to click 2 times. Moy will measure that distance and it will put that value here in the radius field. Or you can turn on straight snap and measure that in straight fashion like this. Or you can turn on object snap and measure that on your elements. You can use any object or element in your scene. Okay, let's uncheck those 2. You have few shape modes. You can go with circular, which is default. But this will produce different radius depending on angles between your surfaces. So this radius can vary depending on that angle. But if you choose the second option, which is called constant distance, you will make sure that all those radiuses will stay the same across all selected edges. We have 3 blend modes, G1, G2 and G3 blend. They are really similar and they all have this bulge parameter. You can play with that to create different profiles here on this round edge. So let's wait for Moy to update. So you have something like this. If you go to the left, if you go to the right side, wait for a second for Moy to update, and you have something like this. So you can change those profiles with this bulge slider. Let's go back to circular mode. We have straight corners option here to create corners in this way. Fillet set is for creating variable fillets. You can hit this new point set, and then let's use object snap. I can define, let's say, 1 point here, 1 point here, and 1 here. And then if I hit done, I can change this radius value. Let's go with 1 millimeter, hit OK, and now you have 1 millimeter in those points for the radius. So you can create variable radius on one same edge. And if you want to create new point set, you just click on this new point set button and then pick another points. Let's go here and here, hit done, and let's change this value. Let's go to 0.3, but this is too much for Moy. Let's go with some bigger value, 0.6. Again, too much. 0.9. Not sure why this is not working. Maybe because I pick this point really near this corner. So let's go back. Let's do this again. Let's hit cancel, and you can pick, let's say, one point here, here, and here. Hit done. Let's use 1 millimeter. Okay, let's pick another point set here, here, and maybe a bit down. Okay, here, and then let's use 0.3. Hit OK, and you have this as a result. So you can create many point sets if you want, and you can change those here in this current set list. You can switch between them, and then you can change this value. You can use 0.5 here, and Moy will update this surface. Let's go back to this first set and let's choose 1.6, hit OK, but this is too much for Moy. Let's go with 1.8, again too much, 0.8, okay, this will work. So we have all those options inside of this fillet command. With chamfer you can do the same stuff, but Moy will produce this cutout effect on your edges. And again, you need to pick your distance for this distance parameter here on the grid by clicking, or you can type it here. Let's go with 1.3 millimeters. With straight corners, you can produce corners in this way. With this option, use two distances, you can produce one object with first value. Let's go with 1 millimeter, and second value will be used on second object. So that's how you use a chamfer effect. And also, if you use only one mesh with this use two distances option, let's select those side edges and those front. If you use, let's say, 2 millimeters for this first value and 0.5 for this second distance, Moy will produce chamfer on those front edges with 2 millimeters, and those side edges will be with 0.5 millimeter chamfer. So that's how I create those uneven chamfers, but I don't ever use that feature. Okay, let's move to next stop, to the star shape. You can use those two on 2D elements. Let's select the star, go to fillet, hit fillet command. Moy will ask you to select corners or push down to do all. I can select few of those corners, hit done, and Moy will do this effect only on those selected corners. Or I can go back and then just hit done without nothing selected, and Moy will do this effect on all corners at the same time. And you can pick this radius on the grid. You can change those modes here. Let's go with G1 blend. You can play with the slider to create different profiles here, and hit done when you're finished. And also you can use chamfer in that same way. Let's hit done. So if you use two distances, Moy will create something like a shuriken. So you can play with this to create different look. If you uncheck this option, Moy will produce it in uniform way. So you can do something like this. And again, you can do that on all corners, or in this dialog box, you can select a few of those corners, hit done, and then do that effect only on selected corners. So that's how you use fillet and chamfer. Let's move to next tool here, which is called offset. You have three options: offset, shell, and inset. With first one, you can produce offset lines or surfaces. If you select this curve and then hit done, you can slide left and right like this to preview this offset curve, and then you need to click to define it. Or you can use the same option, but you can go with this distance parameter here and type it. Let's go with 1 millimeter, hit OK, and you can go in both sides. Also, if you check this, cap ends will create closed line like this, and so on. So you have different options. This true points option is with the sliding, so you don't need to specify this distance. You just need to click. So that's how you use it on open curves. You can use it on closed curves. You can go outside or inside. If you go too far like this, Moy will break this line into two separate pieces. Let's move to this surface here. You can use this effect on surfaces. If I select this surface and hit offset, I can specify distance here. Let's use 1.2 millimeters. So now Moy will create this offset surface outside of this original one. You can flip this with this flip option inside, and also you can pick this distance value on the grid by clicking. And also you can use offset on meshes, not only surfaces. You can select this box and then you can measure the distance, hit done, and you have this smaller box based on this original one. Or you can uncheck this flip option and you can go outside, so you have this bigger box. So that's all about offset command. Another operation here is shell. With that one you need to select your 3D surface, hit done, and you need to pick thickness now. So you can measure it on the grid, or you can type it here. Let's go with 2.7 millimeters. And you see live preview. You can go in normal direction, that means inside from this original shell. You can go in flip direction, that means outside, and you have this center line mode, and that means in both ways, outside and inside at the same time. So that's all about shell. Next option is inset. Inset works only on faces. You need to select faces to inset. Let's use those two. Hit done, and again you need to pick this distance on the grid, or you can type it here. You can go inwards or outwards like this. Let's go back to inwards. You can use separate height for this height value here. So let's go with 0.3, hit OK. So we have now 0.3 millimeters here, and 1.28 millimeters will be used for this value. Okay, so we have grooved option. Also, if you use 0 here, Moy will create this cover for this detail, and if you hit done, you have this detached. And sometimes that is really useful if you want to construct something with that, but you can also use some other value from 0. And if you do that, let's use 0.3, Moy will create 0.3 millimeters gap between this base mesh and this cover, but when you hit done, this cover will be attached to this base mesh. So this is one piece. So that's how you use inset operation. Next tool here is planar. If you select closed curve that is flat and you hit planar, Moy will cap it like this, and you have this flat surface. If you select something like this and then hit planar, Moy will create this surface with all those openings. Also, if you have a surface with flat openings like this, and you don't need to have it in this orientation, you can rotate it at any angle, let's say like this. And now if you select this and hit planar, Moy will cap all those flat openings, so you have solid mesh in this case. So that's how you use all that commands, all those options with planar tool. Next tool here is extrude. You can use it on open curves, closed curves, and on faces and edges. If you use it on open curve, you can produce something like this. You can go up and down and then click to define this surface. You can check this both sides option in this dialog box, and you can go in both directions like this. Let's delete all those. Also, you have this option set direction. You need to pick first direction point. Let's go to front view. I will pick one point here, and then I need to pick second point, and I can slide to preview this effect. If I click second time, Moy will create this directional line. So this is like a snapping guideline for this extrude operation, and you can go only in that direction. So that's how you lock it to a specific direction. Okay, so let's move to this one. If you use extrude in this case, let's uncheck this both sides option. Let's check this cap ends. So without cap ends, Moy will produce this surface, so have those two openings. If you select this and go to extrude and hit this cap ends option here, Moy will cap all those openings, and you have solid mesh in this case. And we have few more options. You can go to point like this. You can go in this tapered mode with this button here. You can go up and down. So this star shape will scale if you go up and down. And you can define this draft angle if you want to scale it faster. So if you use more narrow angle, it will scale faster, so you have this as a result. And also you can create a curve. Let's create one from this top view here, and then let's pick a few points like this. So now we have this curve and this star shape. So if you select the star and hit extrude, you have one more option here, which is called set path. If you click there, Moy will ask you to select path curve. If you use this one, Moy will create this as a result. So this star shape will go on this curve as a path, and it will produce this mesh as a result. And also you can use all those effects on faces. You can select face, hit extrude, you can go up and down. You can keep this separated if you want two separate meshes. You can go in both sides to point. Also you can use this tapered mode. Let's redefine this with 10 degrees. You can go like this, or you can select this face and hit this set path button, and then select this curve as a path, and Moy will extrude on that curve.